Welcome to the #1 source for information, news, and opinion on your Columbus Blue Jackets. This is CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. You can also find the audio version on the CBJ Radio SoundCloud page, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now here's your host, Bob McElligott.
It is time to start another series. This one is officially the Stanley Cup playoffs, the quarterfinal round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And for the Blue Jackets, a very familiar opponent. Yes, it does feel like deja vu all over again. The Blue Jackets are taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 1 is this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Welcome to CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Big show today, lots of information for you. You're going to hear from Rick Peckham. He is the television voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He'll tell us all about Tampa, where they are with their personnel, who might play, who might not play. All the information that he has, you'll hear it in just a few minutes. I also will be joined by Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella coming up here in just a few. So stay right where you are and listen as I tell you about Telhio Credit Union. You know, Telhio Credit Union is a place where they put people over profits. And they haven't done it just for a couple of days or a few weeks or months. They've done it for years. And I'm talking since 1934, they've been doing it. So why do you need a regular bank? Let me answer that question for you. You don't. You need to go online to telhio.org. You need to surf their site. You need to go through, click on all of the different options, find out all about them. Because when you do, you will see why they put people first, and you will want them to put you first. So contact the good folks over at Telhio Credit Union. Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning didn't have to play a qualifying series. The Lightning played in the round-robin tournament, and they finished with the second overall seed in the Eastern Conference. They lost their game to Philadelphia. That put them in second place instead of first place. But look, this matchup is going to get a lot of play in the NHL because of what happened last year. But let me just remind you, this year is not last year, okay? There are going to be many differences, and the first and foremost one is that the Lightning took the Blue Jackets lightly last year. They didn't give them the attention that they should have given them, and they paid the ultimate price. They will not do that this year. They will pay more attention. They will be more in tune as to what the heck is going on when this series gets underway this afternoon. But I still think it's going to be a fascinating series. I want to see how the Blue Jackets get through all of this. They are not as gifted offensively as they were last year when they took on Tampa. But it was their defense and their structure that won them that series. And they still have the defense and they still have the structure. We just saw it in full display in Game 5 against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Sunday. So no rest for the weary. The Blue Jackets with just one day in between series and ready to go this afternoon. I had a chance to catch up with Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella and kind of wrap up the series against the Toronto Maple Leafs and get ready for the series that starts today against Tampa. Well, Torts, the Toronto series is now behind you. Hard-fought series. You went all the way to the end, 5 games to get it done. Now that it's over, just give me your thoughts on how your team played throughout that whole thing. Obviously, the Game 5 win was really, really impressive, the team game that you guys played. And it's really what you talk about all the time is that your team is very resilient. They understand, and well, in your words, they know how to go about their business, don't they?
Yeah, I think it starts with our goaltending. Our goaltending is very good through the series. Yeah, we're not too complicated. We go out and play. I think it kind of ran crazy. I guess it should have after the meltdown that we did have after Game 4. Like, what's going to happen now? And up until that point, other than a couple minutes of that game, we were playing good hockey. And we knew right away after that game was over that we just got to get back to playing that way. And I thought Korpisalo was outstanding in Game 5, made some key saves. And we just plugged along. And that's where we go about our business. And, in Toronto, that's a very good hockey club. And it's, it pisses me off. I read some of the things that, just some of the comments I've heard talking about their coaching staff, that coaching staff in Toronto has done a hell of a job with that team. Sheldon, Keefe, Hack, and the whole group there. Some of the pundits out here, they don't have a clue. And the worst thing about pundits out here is they think they know, but they really don't. So I think Sheldon did a great job with his team.
Yeah, I saw you just stop and have a quick word with him last night when you came off the bench and shook hands. And I know he's a former player of yours with the Lightning, and he has done a lot of really good things there. And I'm sure that he's going to look at that series and he's going to learn a few tricks from his old coach there, don't you think?
Well, it's not a real good time to talk after the game. There's just too much stuff going on, and I don't go in the line and shake hands and all that stuff. And but we text late last night, and we're hopefully going to get together face to face. I just think he's done a terrific job because it was a pretty disciplined Toronto team, and as far as how stingy they were at times. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
It's too bad the news still penetrates the bubble, isn't it?
Yeah, the news out here, any news is going to get into the bubble out here. And they're probably really good guys, but half of them don't have a clue what's going on in that hockey game.
You mentioned Joonas Korpisalo, and he was just, in that Game 5, it seemed like his calmness really just resonated through your team. I think there was only one time, in my opinion, I thought he scrambled one time, and that's when Tavares hit the post squarely. Other than that, he was where he had to be. How much did that just calm down the entire team, the way he played?
Yeah, Manny and I were talking about this morning at practice, and where he just, like I told Manny, I said, it looks like he knows what he's doing. And, being a little sarcastic, but that's a compliment too. I just think he has shown so much more control in his game. And that helps settle a team down versus a goalie all over the place sometimes panics a hockey club. So, yeah. So, it's been a crazy series, Bobby, as far as the goaltending. I mean, that's just the way it is now in our game. But back in the day, you go with your goalie, your number one goalie, and you stay with them. Now, as the years have gone on here, it's to a whole different level right now, especially with a number of teams out here as far as their goaltending situation, using both of them. So we're fortunate.
You always talk about that competition, and especially with those goalies, it's good that they push one another. But then there are some times, if you go earlier in the year when Korpisalo got hurt and Elvis knew that it was his job and he had to take it and he had to play well, he did. He played really, really well. Is this kind of the reverse situation here? I mean, Korpisalo, with the situation with Elvis right now, he knew he didn't have to look over his shoulder. I mean, this is his chance to get back in that net and make sure he grabs it and doesn't give it away.
Yeah. It's a question. I don't know how they think about that. I think it's a question you need to ask them. But it was strange because, with Corpy, I take him out in the series because I'm thinking a little bit of the next game because I'm still thinking I may be going with him. And then Elvis comes in and it just played so well and ends up getting the win. So we went back with him. And how they feel about it, I'm sure Corpy was pissed off, because he was playing really well. I didn't like the last goal he let in before I took him out, but I wasn't taking him out for that reason. So it's a question you need to ask them. I can't worry about their feelings and what they're thinking. I got to worry about what I think is best for the team at that particular time in a game or the next game.
You and I have talked over the last couple of years about players scoring their first National Hockey League goal, and I know you like to talk about it because you love when they do it, and you love the excitement that it creates for your whole team. To watch Liam Foudy score it's such an important time in a deciding Game 5 to give you a padded lead in the third period. Was it even more special?
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy play as I looked on the tape because I couldn't see what was going on at their bench because it's right next to ours, and everybody left the ice. And it was just one of those things where I'm screaming at Gus to give him the puck earlier in the neutral zone. I mean, Gus is plodding up the ice, and Foods is going with speed. He just needed to chip it off the boards, and Foods could have skated onto it. Gus kept it, rimmed it. Everybody changed, and the next thing you know, Foods is kind of walking in at a bad angle, but basically able to get a good shot on goal. So I'm glad because he's had so many opportunities to score big goals, and Anderson has made some big saves on him. Big time in a game for us, and the kid deserves it because he's played very well. He's played well defensively, and he's played very well offensively, so we're happy for him.
You can make the argument that two of your young kids, both him and Alexander Texier, made themselves stars in that series.
Yeah, they, my job is now at the present, but also looking at the future too, as Yarmo's job is. And those are two bright lights as far as what they can become as players. And they both, they're on wing right now. They both can play center also. And it adds a little more responsibility as a center iceman. That may come down the road, but the versatility and what we're seeing out of him right now is pretty exciting for the future also.
The guy that led your team in scoring this year struggled during that Toronto series. As a matter of fact, you put him on the bench for a while last night. What more do you need Oliver Bjorkstrand to do? What is he not doing now that made him so successful all year?
I don't know, Bobby. I'm going to kind of let him figure it out. We have coached him enough. He just doesn't look comfortable right now. Remember, he was hurt and went through a whole protocol as far as getting healthy. Just doesn't get comfortable. One thing about Oliver Bjorkstrand is once he does feel comfortable, he gets streaky. He can fill the net, and we're going to keep on trying to give him an opportunity as we open up this Tampa series and see if we can get him on track. We need to help him, not overcoach him. I think sometimes you just need to allow that player to work himself out of it. But in games, elimination games, I have to make decisions in those games when it's that close of who's going at that particular time. Just felt Oliver wasn't, so we lost some ice time.
You have learned so much about Zach Werenski over the past 4 years. Did you learn even more about him, the fact that he has to miss the end of that previous game and then he comes back and he just – not just the goal that he got, but just, again, a calming presence that he provides, and he just kept with it for that entire Game 5.
Yeah. It's Z and I have always talked about the competitive side of it and all the things that come with it. I think although it's kind of a crazy year, it's kind of playoffs, and you're going to be playing with injuries and stuff like that. I don't know if you can say that right now because we've been off for 4 months. But, guys get banged up. Guys get nicked up. I think it's part of a process for a young player that you don't always have to feel totally 100% and comfortable with your body to play games. And it's good that he came in. Once the game started, I think adrenaline kicks in, and he was a big part of that win last night.
The one part of your game that your team is struggling with, and it happens all the time, but it's the power play. And I know it didn't bite you in that series, but at some point that has to be at least somewhat of a threat, doesn't it, if you want to have success?
Yeah, and we worked on it today at practice and trying some different combinations. We're going to continue to work at it and see if we can get some good stuff to happen on maybe one or two of them, and hopefully the offensive players will feel good about it and they'll take off.
And I know what you're going to tell me in this series, but I'm just going to say it anyway. This is the same deal, isn't it? I mean, playing your game, stopping what they do, and I'm sure they're going to have a chip on their shoulder because of what happened last year, and you're not going to sneak up on them this year, but it still is all about the way your guys play.
Yeah, no matter who we play here, whether it be the Islanders who play a total different style, it doesn't matter who we play. We're going to play, Bobby. We're going to play. We don't lose our personality too often within games. We like to basically just worry about ourselves and go about our business and our execution, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I have one more thing for you, and I didn't want to ask you this until you actually got into the Stanley Cup playoffs, but it was a year where you lost a lot of key guys, and you talked about pundits earlier. You said they don't know everything. Well, you said some don't know anything, but everybody was picking against you getting back into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Officially now, your team is here. And I know this because I'm around them all the time, but there was nobody inside that dressing room. I don't think they cared who was on the team and who wasn't on the team. Every one of those guys believed that they were still good and they were going to get back there, and they did. What does that say about the character of the group overall?
Well, I think what's happened the past couple of years in Columbus, as far as some of the crazy things, is I think it's taught us if we stay together and play as a team, and I do. I think it's a collective belief that we feel we can overcome some obstacles. And let's face it, the guys that left were very important players, and they played very well, even though there was kind of announcements that they were going to leave after the year, early in the year. The guys that left were good teammates, and they played really well for us. So we don't begrudge them anything. But things happen, and free agency, all things happen, and all we can do is get together, band together as a group. We have a really good core that's been together for a number of years now, and that belief is there. And I say it again: you have X's and O's, and you have belief. I think that mind far outweighs X's and O's and systems. I think that belief is such a strong catalyst for a lot of things. We're going to go about it that way.
A lot of people are beside themselves because some of the biggest stars in the game are out of the bubble and their teams are done. I think that's one of the things that's great about this sport is that the hard work and the team concept, I think, I don't know what you think, but I think in this sport it means more than ever, because if you're not playing as a team, you wouldn't still be there. You'd be on your way back here.
Yeah. And it's too bad. There's a lot of star players that are out, and I know how leagues think, and they want to see them front and center and TV and all that, but it is what it is. And I just that's the way we go about our business. We have to. It's just the way we're built, and an old coach like I am, it's fun to see that, that's still there. This is a team sport, and that overcomes a lot of things. And it just reinstills in you that's the key part here, is being together and playing as a team.
There you go. And that's the part that I knew that you would embrace the most. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it.
Yeah. It's important. And it's important. It's fun to watch. And we got a tough team we're going to go up against. I'm not saying we have all the answers by any means, but we're going to go about our business the way we always do.
All right, Torch. Thank you very much. Hey, congratulations on one series win. Best of luck in getting off on the right foot in the next one.
Thanks, Bobby. Be well.
That is Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella. One thing you know for sure, he will have his team ready to go today. As I was saying, for Tampa, they are not going to take the Blue Jackets lightly in this series. But for John Tortorella, he will again have the motivation that his team needs. What they draw from him is what makes them who they are, really. In the playoffs, that is where I think he is so gifted. First, he gets his team to buy in, and then he takes them to another level. He really does. And it's through speech and action that he helps to get them to another level. So I'm really interested to see how this game is going to go today. But right now, let's take a look at the game preview. It's being brought to you by Stanley Steamer. Get back to clean. And I had a chance to catch up with the television voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Rick Peckham. Rick's been in this business for over 40 years. And prior to the season, he announced that this would be his last year as the TV voice of the Lightning, as he is headed off to retirement. And this is the way it's ending for him, not even being in the building and calling games. So you'll hear what he has to say about that later on. But first, let's get his thoughts on the Lightning as they get set to take on the Blue Jackets this afternoon. Well, Rick, isn't it something that we had to wait until August to have a rematch from the series from last April? But here we are in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's the Blue Jackets and the Lightning once again. I think the Blue Jackets are going to have a harder time sneaking up on the Tampa Bay Lightning this year. Would you agree?
I would agree. They're definitely not going to sneak up on them. That's for sure. With only one meeting back in February and nationwide between the two teams since last spring with that first round upset, if the Lightning hadn't been thinking about it, I think they've been reminded by enough people to bring it back to mind over the course of that year since then. So it's going to be interesting to see this unfold.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting, too, because there is animosity this time around, I'm sure. What was it like with the team last year when they were stunned by the Blue Jackets? When that Game 4 ended, how was that flight back? What was the mentality of the team at that point?
Well, I think you hit on it. I think it was a stunning situation. I think they were stunned really from after game 2 on. Um, I think after game 1, they felt, okay, we let one slip away there, and we're not going to let that happen again. But obviously, the Blue Jackets were emboldened by the success in coming back in the second and third period and winning that first game, and just kind of rode that into the following games. And I don't think the Lightning, by the time they got around to trying to react to it, I don't think they had gotten over the fact that Columbus had taken charge of this series at that point, and they were pretty stunned by it, and it kind of carried through right through game 4.
Now, the difference between the 2 years is last year, the Lightning was really playing for records. I mean, they had won so many games, one of the best teams ever in the regular season in the history of the National Hockey League. This year, it's just been about playing hockey like everybody else, hasn't it? And trying to withstand injuries and trying to get yourself into a position where you can take a run at the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it is. It's very different. Even last year, at the end of the regular season, was different from most years because the Lightning really had their bye week in the last week of March. They came out of that bye week and just played that final week, where they were chasing records, but they had 5 days off just at the end of the month of March to kind of sit on the fact that they were close on all these records. And no matter what they were trying to say, I mean, it's human nature. You're that close to being that special a team over the course of the regular season and the long history of the NHL. That's got to creep into your thinking to a certain extent. And I thought at that point they were pretty well rested. They weren't running on fumes like some teams do at the end of a regular season where your games are jammed in there, like would have been the case this year because their schedule was extremely tight down the last 2 months of the season. They just didn't need that break then, and it gave them too much time to exhale. I don't think they really ever got any momentum going again. And, that first period against Columbus, it just came too easy. People say it was 3-0. It could have been 5-0. There was an icing call in that first period where it was misplayed by Bobrovsky, and JT Miller almost scored on it and probably should have scored on it, but Bob ended up making a miraculous save. That could have been a 4th goal. And then, of course, the big save early in the second period. It could have been 5-0. I'm not sure the Blue Jackets come back from that, but, full credit for them being able to face the situation that they had and, being able to build on that and really stunned everybody around the hockey world.
Well, two of the big question marks for the Lightning coming into this series is the health of Victor Hedman is a big one. He got hurt in the round robin, and then Steven Stamkos hasn't been with the team. And the Blue Jackets last year, when Victor Hedman left that series, Rick, it was a different series. The Blue Jackets took advantage of that. What's the status of those two big pieces for the Lightning going into this?
No real news to report on that. The team's pretty tight-lipped about the situations with both of them. As you can imagine, going into a playoff series, they're going to be pretty tight to the vest in terms of that information. So whether we find out about it in the morning, a special 3 o'clock start, and how many playoff series that we've experienced in the past that have begun at 3 o'clock in an afternoon, especially on a Tuesday. But, whether we find out that information before the warm-up takes place at Scotiabank Arena, we'll see what happens.
Well, of course, when it comes to forwards, there are plenty of talented offensive guys. I'm sure Nikita Kucharov is one of those players that feels like his showing in last year's series between these two teams wasn't his best. I would say if there's a guy that's looking to make amends in a first-round series, it would probably be him. Do you agree?
I think so. I think we've seen a better Kucherov through the round-robin games. He's been very engaged physically. He's one of the best guys in the league in stealing pucks. You see that statistic in terms of being able to steal pucks. And, he's got that defensive ability. He was a plus 33 a few years ago with the team when he really started to come to the fore, the old triplets line with Andre Palat and Tyler Johnson and the damage that they wreaked through the playoffs to get to the finals in 2015. He's got that ability, but his defensive ability is being able to steal pucks. and he can battle. He's not a big guy, and he's been a little more physically engaged, I think, in these round-robin games. I think this is very much in his mind about the level he has to bring his game to in order to help the team succeed here.
Now, of course, the Lightning is going to deal with even more of a blue-collar Blue Jackets team this year, without the likes of Artemi Panarin, who they had to deal with last year. Josh Anderson is still injured here. I know he was a big factor in that series last season. But what's from outside of Columbus, when you look at the Blue Jackets, especially watching what they did to the Leafs in this qualifying round, what do you see, and what are the biggest the dangers for the Lightning going into this series against Columbus this time around?
They clog the middle so well. The Lightning have that tendency with all their skill in the lineup, and skilled players love to do this playing with each other, is playing that east-west game. They're not a dump and chase group of people. So I think that plays right into a style that Columbus is very able to defend, and that is clogging the middle. I think we saw it yesterday with the game against the Leafs, was that, Columbus, in every dangerous situation, the Blue Jackets had 4 and 5 guys back. They were not going to make the mistakes that would open a door for Toronto to come in and take over the game, as it happened in game number 4. That structure, I think, is the biggest thing. I look at Columbus, I look at Carolina, I look at the Islanders, I look at Montreal. They all share some very good characteristics. One, they're very, very well coached. Number 2, they play a strong structure. Number 3, they have some star players, but except for a Carey Price, who obviously well-known superstar in the NHL, they're all pretty much under the radar. Seth Jones, I think the league is really catching on to him, and a Sebastian Aho in Carolina, Werenski, and even a growing talent like Pierre-Luc Dubois. But they don't have any established superstars in their lineup, so they buy into that structure, I think, better than most. I think whether it's Columbus or Montreal, any of these teams that had to get through the qualifying playoffs, we're going to see some tremendous first-round series, a great challenge for all the seeded teams here.
When you talk about structure, of course, that is John Tortorella's specialty. And you know that better than most because you worked with John Tortorella, and now you work with John Cooper. As you look at these two guys in that head-to-head matchup, I find it fascinating because I really thought Torts played it well last year. I thought he made all the right moves, and I thought that he had John Cooper scrambling a little bit. And what he was doing, again, Cooper's a smart guy. He's going to make adjustments this year, but both of them so well. How do you see this matchup?
Well, I think Coop's going to have more cards in his hand this year than he had last year. I mean, everyone would love to have the skill level that John Cooper looks down on as he's standing behind the bench every night in the National Hockey League schedule. But you have to have that balance, of course, to be successful in the playoffs. Everybody has learned that either the hard way or just by watching over the years. And the Lightning, I think, are a much better prepared team as far as that's concerned, with adding snarl, grit, whatever you want to call it. Different players for different roles. You have to have those role players. Certainly the Blue Jackets and the success that they had last year in the playoffs in that first round, and just to survive, the incredible amount of injuries, well over 400 man games lost this year to get into the tournament. Really, their record good enough to be in the top 8. You've got to have different roles for different people and the different skill sets that really make up a team. And I think this is a much better rounded team for John Cooper to deal with and to answer the challenges, the ebbs and flows that happen during a best-of-7 series.
Being a guy that's been around the game for a long time, how much do you still appreciate that old school mentality of John Tortorella?
Love it. Love it. Always have, always will. It's just something that should never leave the game. And I think it's a good part of what makes our league, our sport, special in a day and age where, a lot of people are looking at pro sports and what do they stand for and what do they mean? I mean, the individuality, I think, has come into it, and it's come into it in a good way. But I think that team concept is what separates the National Hockey League from the other sports And I think that I mean, you just look at how the team has bought into the league's protocol and how they've restructured this whole restart and how well it's working. Knock on wood, it continues through till as late as October 4th. But, it really shows how strong a league this is with that team concept. That's something that hockey is a very special sport because of that.
Well, Rick, the last thing I want to talk to you about is you, because you announced prior to the season that you were going to be retiring at the end of the year. I feel bad for you. I've thought about this many, many times. I mean, to be in that last season, that last go around, and all of a sudden, a farewell tour to all the buildings, then all of a sudden it stops and it's shut off for 4.5 months. Now you can't even go to any buildings. We're all calling games off TV screens. It's kind of a strange way, I guess, for you to go out. But what have you felt, especially when it paused? Because you're looking down the stretch, and all of a sudden the stretch was drawn out for almost 5 months.
Yeah, definitely. We've saved the strangest of circumstances for the last, no question about it. You know what? It's just something that I just kind of look at this whole pause and what the world is going through right now, and just say, hey, this is just another one of the experiences you've had in 42 years in the sport, and nothing can top it in terms of its oddity and the odd nature of it. But we're just getting through it, and it's something where, as you're doing, Bob, you're bearing down on this series now. You've got 2 opponents you're going to see for a couple of weeks here, and we just get ready game in, game out, and that's really what our focus is. Hard to say what I'm going to feel when this series is done, because my play-by-play duties will be finished at that point. The networks take over from there. If the Lightning are fortunate enough to win this series, we might continue to do some post-game shows, and I might be a part of that. But hard to say. I really haven't planned anything out. You're just trying to get through the assignments and just do the best you can with it. And I also don't feel like I'm really going away. We're staying here in Tampa. I expect to be at games. I see people all the time. Hey, we'll miss you. You're not getting rid of me. I'm going to be around in some way or form. So looking forward to that.
Well, that's good. But I did want to tell you, since I won't get to see you in the buildings during this series, how much I've appreciated watching you and listening to you, whether it's been on the Lightning broadcast or whether it's been on the national broadcast. You're absolutely a true pro, a very easy listen. I appreciate the way that you do the game. And, hey, just thanks for everything that you've done. And I'm glad you'll still be there, because, God willing, we travel again. I'll see you in Tampa sometime soon.
I'll look forward to that, Bob. Thank you so much for the kind words. Keep up the great work with you and your organization. It's really a top-notch organization. And good to see you in the playoffs, but where the loyalties have to lie in this situation. So we'll see who comes out through best of 7 here in the next 10, 12 days.
Well, it was great to have Rick on this show today, and he and I will be doing the same job from different locations, and each of us rooting for our respective teams to win not only this game, but to win this series and move on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's take a look at some of the leaders of the Lightning through the round-robin games that they played. Tyler Johnson leads them in goals with 2. Braden Point and Alex Killorn each have 1. Braden Point and Killorn have 2 assists apiece. Tyler Johnson has 1. So all 3 of those players, I'll do the math for you, okay? They each have 3 points coming into this game today. And Andrei Vasilevsky has a 2.29 goals against average. Now, that's pretty lofty when you compare it to what we saw from Frederik Andersen of the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 5 games between the Blue Jackets and Toronto. But Vasilevsky is a really good goalie, and you saw him last year. The Blue Jackets were able to beat him last year. I think it's an upgrade over Frederik Andersen. I think the Blue Jackets are going to have a much harder time scoring against Vasilevsky. But, again, they've been there. They've done that. And one thing about this team is whenever they have experience at something, they take that and they become better. So will they be better this year against the Lightning than last year? That's going to be tough to do. I mean, last year was a 4-game sweep. I'm not expecting that whatsoever. But if the Blue Jackets just win the series, I don't care if it's 4 games to 3, doesn't matter. but you only get there by winning one at a time, and that's where the focus is for the Blue Jackets this afternoon. The puck drops at 3 o'clock this afternoon. A couple of afternoon games to get this series started. Our pregame coverage on the Blue Jackets radio network will start at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and the radio network includes our flagship station in Columbus, 97.1 The Fan, also our stations throughout the state, and the couple that we have in West Virginia. You can get the game on your phone by using the Blue Jackets app or the TuneIn app. You can also find us online at bluejackets.com. I'm excited. It's a new team. It's a new round, and now it becomes real. I mean, yes, you had to get through the qualifying series just to get here, but this is round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Blue Jackets are here for a fourth straight year, and they're ready to go against a very familiar opponent in the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's going to do it for today's edition of CBJin30, presented by Tel Ohio Credit Union. Until game time, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.